Welcome back to Bodybuilding Nation. Today we're diving into the latest updates on several key competitors heading into the Pittsburgh Pro, along with some other notable physique updates in the bodybuilding world. Let's get right into it. Derek Lunsford. Back-to-back peak performance. Let's begin with reigning Arnold Classic champion and former Mr. Olympia, Derek Lunsford. Derek has repeatedly mentioned during this preparation that he's feeling stronger than ever before. This is particularly remarkable considering he's in the midst of back-to-back contest preps for the first time in his professional career. Derek is preparing for his third major show in just a few months, which is an incredible feat in itself. It's hard to believe that not long ago his quad development was the main topic of discussion across bodybuilding media platforms. Many questioned whether he could rebuild his legs from the Olympia to this year's Arnold Classic. Yet Derek silenced all critics by showing up at his absolute best, defeating reigning Mr. Olympia Samson Dauda in convincing fashion. His leg development has been exceptional, and credit must go to his coach Vito, who's been strategic about knowing when Derek needs to push harder and when to back off. This approach is likely why we can expect another outstanding package from Derek at the upcoming Pittsburgh Pro, possibly even better than what we witnessed at the Arnold Classic in Ohio. For those who claim you can't peak multiple times per year at 100% perfection, we've seen evidence to the contrary. William Bonac, also working with Vito, peaked 6 times in a single calendar year. The competition at Pittsburgh must be hoping Derek comes in off his mark, because if he brings the same package we saw at the Arnold, he'll be extremely difficult to beat. Derek's combination of aesthetics, proportion, and completeness sets him apart. Considering he just defeated the current Mr. Olympia so convincingly, this show should theoretically be less challenging. Neither Nick Walker nor Martin Fitzwater has ever defeated Derek in competition. While it won't be a cakewalk, if Derek shows up at 100%, he's likely walking away with the win and the $100,000 prize. Martin Fitzwater, 3 weeks out and ready next. Let's look at Martin Fitzwater, who's exactly 3 weeks out from his first show of the year. Martin was actually hoping Derek would compete at Pittsburgh, and he got his wish granted. We've only seen some shots of Martin taken from unique angles, making it difficult to assess exactly how his size compares to his Olympia or Prague Pro look from last year. However, one thing is guaranteed: Martin will be incredibly shredded and peeled to the bone. His crab-most muscular pose is particularly intimidating and will challenge many competitors on stage. If you recall last year's New York Pro, he pressured Nick Walker to attempt the same variation of the most muscular shot. Judges later specifically advised Nick never to do that crab most muscular again. That's how dominant Martin is in that particular pose. With 3 weeks still remaining before he steps on stage, Martin has plenty of time to fine-tune his conditioning and get even more detailed. The remarkable thing is that he's already walking around nearly stage-ready. At this point, he mainly needs to manipulate water, and he could be ready to compete within 24 hours. While we've established that body weight is somewhat irrelevant for Martin, and his coach Stefan understands this well, size still rules in open bodybuilding. He'll need to come in bigger than he was at last year's Olympia. People who have seen him in person are reporting that his conditioning is already superior to what he brought to the Olympia, with 3 more weeks still to go. This is astonishing considering he was arguably the most perfectly peaked competitor in the Olympia top 6 last year. This impressive early conditioning explains why Martin is so confident and specifically wanted to face Derek Lunsford at this show. Brett Wilkin, impressive off-season update. Moving on, we have an off-season physique update from Brett Wilkin that's genuinely impressive, especially considering he had to take 3 weeks completely off from training, PEDs, and dieting due to pneumonia. Based on his current leanness, it seems Brett might be planning to compete before the Olympia this year, not just focusing on the big show. He looks remarkably lean for what should be his off-season phase. It will be exciting to see him possibly enter a qualifier show before the Olympia, not just to secure qualification for next year, but also to test his working relationship with his coach Stefan. As far as I recall, Brett worked with Matt Jensen even before turning pro, prior to 2021. Together, they achieved good results, with Brett winning a pro show in 2022. For those unaware, he won the Legion Sports Fest last year to secure his Olympia qualification for this year. The main criticism Brett received last year was that he lost too much size and wow factor in the final weeks leading into that show. The Brett we saw guest posing recently carries significant wow factor, which has been a pattern for him over the years. He typically looks massive during the off-season and prep, but loses considerable size as the competition approaches. For a prestigious show like the Olympia, if Brett doesn't maintain more of his size, he might get lost in this year's stacked lineup, particularly against someone like Andrew Jacked, who brings enormous size. While Brett can achieve sharper conditioning than Andrew, size remains a major factor in men's open. Brett will likely aim to add another 5 to 10 pounds of mass compared to the Legion Sports Fest last year. That was his plan for this year's Olympia. It's worth remembering that the Olympia favors larger physiques. Akim Williams placed in the top 10 last year, looking absolutely phenomenal, showing just how difficult it is for Olympia debutantes to crack that top 10. Good Vito. Pittsburgh Pro Challenge. Good Vito is just 3 weeks away from stepping on the biggest bodybuilding stage of his career thus far, the Pittsburgh Pro. Vito earned his Olympia qualification by winning the Arnold Brazil a few weeks back, but he's lost some hype in the context of larger competitions due to the exceptional depth of the Pittsburgh Pro lineup. There are certain aspects of his physique, particularly his legs, which will be among the best in the show. However, other major areas, such as his arms and shoulders, especially in side shots, appear less impressive. His shoulders don't look as capped or three-dimensional in the front lat spread, which is why many believe he'll be outclassed in these areas by at least 5 competitors at Pittsburgh. After seeing how William Bonac showed up at this year's Detroit Pro, many are questioning whether Good Vito will even make the top 5 at Pittsburgh. The only theory working in Vito's favor is that he and his team may have deliberately held back from going all out for the Arnold Brazil, knowing they could win that show regardless, and are saving their best package for Pittsburgh against the likes of Derek, Nick, Martin, Michael Crezo, and William Bonac. This could certainly be true, as we observed a similar pattern last year from the Arnold Brazil to the Detroit Pro. What are your expectations for Good Vito at the upcoming Pittsburgh Pro? Quinton Area. Potential breakthrough year? Finally, we're looking at whether this could be the year Quinton Beastwood Area lives up to his potential and delivers his best ever package. We've heard countless times that he has one of the best genetics in modern bodybuilding, but in terms of placements, this assessment hasn't fully materialized yet. Quinton has been competing as a pro for nearly 6 years and is still searching for his first professional win. Some argue that as a tall competitor with a large frame, it takes longer to properly fill out a physique. Quinton will face several Olympia-level athletes in his first show this year, so he's likely preparing for the upcoming Tampa Pro, where he'll compete against Justin Shire, John DeRosa, and most likely John Jewett. Can Quinton defeat them all? Absolutely. He's incredibly gifted in terms of overall shape, aesthetics, and flow. He takes up significant stage real estate and has impressive conditioning. When we saw Quinton last year versus John Jewett at the Toronto Pro, while John displayed sharper conditioning and detail, Quinton still placed higher. The Toronto Pro was Quinton's final show last year, where he managed to redeem himself after a disappointing New York Pro performance, surprising many who didn't expect him to place in the top 5. Currently, he looks very impressive for being 14 weeks out, both big and aesthetic. However, he typically looks extremely impressive 3 months out from competition. The key will be maintaining that mass as he gets deeper into his preparation. At 100% of his potential, Quinton has what it takes to qualify for this year's Olympia. He has the tools to defeat many established names, and we should remember he's had multiple close calls earlier in his career, placing second in several Olympia qualifiers. That wraps up our analysis of these key competitors. What are your thoughts on these physique updates? Who do you see winning the Pittsburgh Pro? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to Bodybuilding Nation for more content like this. Thanks for watching.